Dear fellow podcasters, listeners, and anyone with taste, please allow me to sincerely apologize for the ordeal I have put you through. When making the decision to watch and critique the Neverending Story, it had not occurred to me that it would be directly followed by the calamitous Neverending Story II, the next chapter. I take full responsibility for my actions. They were impulsive, cruel, and inexcusable. I understand that nothing may repair the irrevocable emotional and psychological damage those 89 minutes and 45 seconds undoubtedly must have incurred. You trusted me, and I let you down. I endeavored to make amends, and as the first step towards atonement, I would like to announce we will not be pursuing the Neverending Story III.
Aww.
While that may result in a resounding sigh of relief, I realize this will not give back the precious time lost. Please consider this a sincere and heartfelt apology. In future, I vow to be a more solicitous member of this podcast and not use my power so recklessly again. I take comfort in knowing that while we did suffer, we suffered together, and may use our collective pain as a cautionary tale. Help and end this never-ending story. Deepest condolences, Irina, the girl.
Well, I guess I can tear up my resignation letter now.
Golf claps.
Wait,
golf claps. Around the table, golf claps.
Golf claps.
I do understand
All right,
that you are going to sign this in your own blood.
Yeah, here we go.
All right, got the
Gotta
pen in hand.
stab the...
Yep.
Okay.
And signing's happening.
Oh, yep. Irina, the girl.
Sign the other 4 copies, please, to the rest of the podcasters, and you're gonna want to mail that to us, please. All right.
Can you fax mine?
Third.
Yeah, we're gonna need a letter of affidavit.
Fax that to AJ.
I think you need a permit for that with the corona going on now.
We might have to.
And that's done. Awesome. All right, welcome to Franchise Killer, a podcast where we pick movie franchises or wannabe franchises, review them film by film, and see where things went wrong. Let's just leave it at wrong.
Do we need to do this podcast?
You tricked me.
No, it's already.
I know.
I was gonna.
This was all just so Noah had to watch.
I was gonna imitate another character in the movie we just watched.
So today we are covering The Neverending Story II, the next chapter. It is indeed the next chapter in this short movie, but it's a movie that does seem never-ending.
Dude, I stopped this. I don't know how many times I stopped this movie to check how much longer there was on
She did.
the
We were watching
timeline.
this together, and it was filled with, wait, go back.
Sounds
Anyway,
like I
I'm
missed
the
out
host.
because I watched Tomorrow Never Dies.
Wow.
This
But-
running bit, man.
How was it?
Well, at least part of my soul didn't die.
I am Reese, the post of this podcast.
I
I am Reese. I am Reese, the host of this podcast. You are,
David.
and you are,
Hi, Irina.
and you are,
Noah.
and way off in a distant land we have.
AJ.
And as I mentioned earlier, we were talking about the Neverending Story II, the next chapter, directed by George T. Miller. No, and that's not the George Miller that directed Mad Max, Babe, and other such classics.
Are you sure?
Yeah, don't want to give him
It makes
a
you
bad
wonder
name.
how good it would have been if it had been him, though.
Yeah. But George T. Miller does have one semi-classic under his belt, and that's The Man from Snowy River. You'll have heard of that
What?
movie. Yeah.
Really?
I have
Yeah.
not.
He did that movie?
Yeah. And he also did a movie that you watched as a kid.
What?
Zeus and Roxanne.
Oh, ugh.
He did that one.
Gross.
The movie stars
He's got one good one.
Yeah, the movie stars Jonathan Brandis, Kenny Morrison, Clarissa Burt, John Wesley Shipp, and Martin Umbach. All stars who went on to have lucrative careers in Hollywood. The movie was written by Karen Howard, and it's based off of the second half of the Neverending Story by Mikhail Ende. I'm sure he was happy.
Yeah,
Very
nominally
I'm sure
based
he's thrilled
off of.
with this.
Yeah, I'm sure he was happy to return to the adaptations of his world after he was already disappointed with the
My
first
question
film.
is, did he sue for the first one or the second one?
He
The first
couldn't-
one.
Both.
I think the second one he just went into a coma or something.
Yeah.
Oh, he disapproved.
Yeah, David,
Oh my
didn't you
gosh.
read up on that? Like his reaction to them?
A little bit. It was more or less just he was very displeased and wanted his name taken off the record as connection to this. And the second one, I think he did just kind of go into hiding because
That's not
later
mine.
definitely said he hated it, but I mean, for the most part, he just like went away.
Well, something I noticed, because obviously he didn't want his name put on these, is that in this movie, in the very beginning with the credits, when they put the title up there, they put in large white letters, based on the novel by Michael Ende. And I was just like, wow.
Poor
He's
guy.
like,
he
great.
Just didn't listen to him at all.
Nope.
So on this podcast, we first go over our thoughts on the film before revisiting it for the episode. Then we dive into the story, break it down bit by bit, and talk about the more significant moments. Then towards the end of the show, we give our brief reviews and numbered scores along with an analysis on the health of the franchise and whether or not this film hurt it.
So
Not
so
very
real
healthy.
quick, was that a intentional pun on the dive right into it?
Yeah,
I'm noticing
exactly.
a theme here. You see,
You gotta have courage.
That's the pivotal moment in this movie.
I will
a
say,
dive.
you did
Pivotal.
have to have courage to watch this.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
lots of it.
Maybe this movie is secretly very intelligent.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's asking its audience to dive along with Bastion into
Certainly goes off the deep end.
madness.
into your ultimate horrors. And
Oh my god.
I would say we did. We accomplished that.
Yeah. Ugh.
So you all want to talk about the story to this movie?
I guess.
How quickly can we get through it?
Well,
it's-
do we have any? Does anyone have any prior experience with
Oh,
this?
oh, yeah. Has anyone seen this movie before?
I mean, I don't know about you guys. I thought all of us had at some point in our childhood. It is a very vague memory, but a lot of these moments in this movie stood out to me at least.
So, I think for me, I had watched it once, or at least part of it once, a long time ago. I was a kid. I hardly remember anything. While watching it again, there were certain scenes that seemed familiar. I do remember certain parts, which will come up later.
Ooh, I wonder if it's the exact same part that I remembered that I had actually
I
seen
guess
this.
we'll see.
Yeah.
But I think one of the main reasons was that our parents did show us Neverending Story, the first film. And the main character in this actually is played by a kid that was in the original It, the miniseries. And so having liked that, I guess they thought this would be okay. But it wasn't.
But it wasn't.
Noah, how about you?
I didn't see it. Yeah.
Okay. AJ, had you seen this movie before?
Yeah, I'm with Noah. If I had any memory of it, has been locked deep, deep away by my subconscious, along with
You're
the dubbing parents.
Suppressing it.
I will
Your
say,
inner Bastion.
I will say there's one scene and one scene alone in this movie that when we got to it, I was like, oh, I have seen this movie.
Yeah.
And it was just, I didn't remember anything before it or after it. It's just one scene where I'm like, oh, I've seen this, which shows you that usually you absorb a lot as a child when you're watching movies, but this movie is so vacuous that I guess that's all I remembered about it.
Would you say it's hollow?
I mean, that's basically the same.
Well, I would think like in the movie.
The
They
emptiness.
must be really empty.
Yeah, the emptiness. That's true. Yeah, what a stretch from the first movie.
It's very meta,
All right, you all ready to talk about the story?
I
Yes.
guess.
Sure.
Bastion Balthazar Bucks seeks to join his school's swimming team, but his ability to jump off a diving board is marred by his acrophobia. He visits Carl Conrad Coriander's what is this?
Antiquarian.
He revisits Carl Conrad Coriander's antiquarian bookstore. Say that, guys. Say that 5 times fast.
Say it again.
No.
Carl Conrad Coriander's antiquarian bookstore.
Carl
Beetlejuice,
Conrad
Beetlejuice,
Inquisitors Antiquated Antiquities.
Shut up, David.
To seek advice on courage, where he rediscovers the Neverending Story and hears the childlike Empress call out to him for aid.
Sorry.
Bastion takes the book home while the Orin amulet magically comes off the book cover, which Bastion takes and is summoned to Fantasia.
So here's why this movie is terrible, because it almost tricks you at the very beginning. Hey, this is actually might be okay, because they're actually directly referencing the intro of the first movie.
Yeah.
It talks about the swim meet, and the first movie talked about wanting to join the swim team. stuff like
Look,
that,
we're
the orange
thinking.
juice and all that stuff.
Hey, look, continuity.
I'm gonna say that I already knew it was going to be bad, and this is no discredit to your opinion, but Bastion has this fumbling of his food and just dropping everything on the floor.
Yeah.
And the way and with the music was so hokey during this scene. I was just, what is happening
I was
now?
waiting for some
Like,
Benny Hill to kick in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, you're
Your
right. Everything
typical
did change.
fumbling child.
yeah, and you got a different cast. No offense to Jonathan Bendis, who, rest in peace, he's not nearly as good as the original Bastion. Even though the original Bastion didn't even have much to do either.
No.
It's just, there's something about this kid that's just, he's...
Well, it's
Overly
like,
angsty
I
and
think
snot-nosed and...
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
he's definitely overacting, like the wide
Yep.
eyes and the oh no, I dropped plates.
Whoa!
No,
She's
don't
trying to be
look."
another Home
Miss
Alone.
Convertible, is she
kinda.
picking you up? Haha.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, the dad,
You're
he really
dating?
changed. He really changed from Gerald McRaney, Daddy Borbucks.
I know.
yeah.
You got your
No.
hip daddy-o brother figure.
He's an engineer. Damn it. He
Oh, yeah,
sees what he
In
sees.
case you didn't,
Yeah.
you didn't hear that 3 or 4 times.
I'm an engineer. I see what I see.
Noah, you somehow recognize that this guy played the Flash.
Oh
His
yeah.
dad.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I throughout the movie I was like, who is this guy? I recognize him,
Oh.
and then I finally
I didn't
was
know
like,
that
oh
at
wait,
all.
I know who this guy is. He's that old cheesy Flash TV
Yeah,
series
from the early 90s or late 80s, I don't know.
Yeah, whenever
is
it
the
was.
TV series.
And which I only recognized him because of the more recent Flash
CW
series that he's also in, but he's older in that, so that's why I couldn't quite point him out to begin with.
Yeah. And
But
then
yeah.
we get the scene where he's trying out for the swim team and he utterly fails at mustering the courage to dive.
No. He had a cramp.
A cram.
He had a cramp. I believe that.
I
That
have
is
a
what it was.
cramp, coach. Well, also, okay, hang on. You guys were all in swim team except David, but do you remember having to do a dive, like a high dive, to get on the swim team?
has had to
That
do
has
that
never
for a
been
swim
like,
team.
here's your tryout, just go to the high dive.
That's
dive.
a high dive.
Jump
It's supposed
off.
to test your
Not the
courage.
Marine.
If you're
Jump.
gonna make it, you gotta
even-
be courageous.
Yeah, they didn't even let the diver before clear the pool or the splash area before the next person jumped practically on top of them.
Go, jump!
Plus, they didn't even dive; they just jumped. Like it wasn't even a dive.
It's a test of
It's a
courage,
bravery
Reese. Yeah.
test.
No.
Okay,
Well, see,
also,
the only recurring cast member is Coriander. Everyone else is completely new cast in this movie.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But I'd like to point out,
Yeah.
at this precise moment when he's about to not dive in, I called the entire story.
Yeah.
I knew the exact end
Yeah.
that was going to happen. I knew he was going to, at the end, do his fateful dive and find out he's courageous at this point.
Yep.
It's just,
You did Niagara
Yeah.
Falls.
yeah,
I have so many
stupid.
criticisms of
Yep.
this
I-
film,
I-
but
I
I
would-
have to wait until we get there. So
Yeah, they telegraphed the entire movie right off the bat.
no, they don't actually. They have like a little foreshadowing with this, but then all the crap that happens in between has nothing to do with testing of courage at all.
Whoa, giants!
I don't know. Whatever.
That aren't giants.
Anyway,
So he gets back home. He has a little tussle with his dad. Where he is wearing the most destroyed
Dude, I made the
sweater
same
I've
comment.
ever seen.
yes.
Like
Yeah.
the
It
dad
has
had
holes in it.
the dad had every right to call out.
His
like,
mom made it.
He turns around, whips back. I like it.
Mom made it. Did you forget?
The thing is, though, that sweater. Like, I want to know what the hell he has been doing. Has he
I
just
don't
been like
know.
Obviously,
running through?
someone
Has he
named
been?
Moonchild made it.
Yeah, has he
Yeah.
been running through a bramble bush every morning? Just like his sweater looks. It's the worst looking sweater I've ever seen.
No.
And I do not like you. You have to have some mental hang up to
Yeah.
wear that thing.
Yeah.
And if I were a father, I'd be concerned if my son were wearing that on top of his normal clothes every day.
Yeah.
No offense, Bastion. Like take that sweater off.
Well, not only that, he's wearing like a button down under it that's not tucked in. and over it is a too tight sweater that's ratty.
Yeah.
I think we may be over analyzing this
No,
specific.
this
No,
whole
we're
episode
not.
is about the sweater, David.
I'm just saying.
It's
The
His
sweater
mom
is
made
not
it. There
a
are
sweater,
holes.
it's the movie.
There are holes in his sweater, like there are holes in this film.
yeah, David. It's a metaphor.
They were so smart.
Yeah, they're
Meta.
calling themselves out ahead of
I
time.
know.
All right, so he steals the book from Coriander, and this is just another super cringeworthy scene where
Bastion, help us.
that and just the way he steals the book, the
Way worse than the
the
first movie.
performance is so much different, but Coriander reacts like this. Oh, it's just a cute this kid. He's just
No, it was part of
know.
the plan, just like the first movie.
Yeah.
No, you absolutely cannot take that book.
I will say this though. Irina and I were talking during this scene, and Irina, I think right beforehand, I think you were saying like, "Are they just pretending like the first movie never happened?" And then Bastion's like, "Remember, I already read it." And they're like, "Oh, they
So
are
you're not
trying to."
acting like you
Okay.
went to another world. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, I think the worst part about the scene is Coriander's like knowing smile
Yeah.
as Bastion runs off with the book. Because no, Bastion, you did not earn that smile. Like, you have not sold yourself as this kid that just finds wonderment in reading. You sold yourself as like this just
Angsty little boy.
yeah, angsty boy that just wants what he wants.
Yeah. Ugh.
But
He's
also,
a
like,
snotty little child.
Can we talk for a moment about how much his reaction to his dad changed too?
Yeah.
Just from the first one. In the first one, he's obviously upset about his mom, but he's not overreacting about it towards his dad. He's
He
kind of still
internalizes
in his,
it.
Yeah.
yeah. But in this one, he's just like, I hate you, Dad.
Yeah, it honest,
I'm gonna run away. Or
he reminded me of Hayden
Yes.
Christensen's Anakin, where it's just but like younger.
I killed them.
I hate
Killed them
sand.
all.
Yeah, I hate
sand.
sand. It's coarse and irritating.
but not like you, Falcor.
So, like, the only...
Smooth and soft.
That's why he wants
And
to
you
scratch his
orgasm
ear.
when I touch you.
That sand gets everywhere, you know.
Oh, that's we'll talk about. No, I'll save it.
So I think the only reason that he's here back in reality is like in the book this didn't happen. He doesn't revisit his home.
Mm-hmm.
He's there in Fantasia or Fantastica, whatever. But
You're right, Fantasia.
in this it's like he came back to his home and then just forgot his whole journey, and now it's almost like it's trying to revisit the world of Fantasia kind of now in the 1990 91.
Yeah,
right?
91.
It's
90
early
and 90 in Germany, 91 here.
Yeah,
You know,
so
a good
it's-
parallel. Sorry,
yeah,
go on.
No, it's fine. It's just that it really does diminish all the magic and mystery of the first one. But they throw more magic into it, but somehow it feels like less.
He became
Yeah.
Susan
Yeah.
of Narnia.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I was gonna say a good parallel is Narnia, where they revisit Narnia, and it's just as cool as the first time they visit it because everything's changed at this point. But they did not do that with
No.
this one.
Let's get back to Fantasia. In Fantasia, Bastion meets a bird-like creature named Nimbly and is reunited with Atreyu. Nimbly, unbeknownst to Bastion and Atreyu, was sent as a spy to persuade Bastion to make wishes until he is unable to remember why he came to Fantasia. After the group encounters and escapes from giants, Bastion comes to understand that a force called emptiness is spreading across Fantasia. This force has been brought about by the evil sorceress Zaida, who seeks to seize power over Fantasia. To hinder Bastion's quest, Zaida's inventor Triface develops an apparatus that strips Bastion of a memory each time he uses the Orin amulet to make a wish.
He only has like 20 memories in his entire life.
Can I just make some
Guys.
comments on some character design real quick?
Sure.
Yeah,
So-
I also have comments on the character design, but go
They
ahead.
call these guys giants that they're running all over the place with in
so happy you
in
brought this
Steel
up.
City or whatever it's
Yeah.
called. They
Yeah.
call them giants, but they're like Power Ranger bad guy lobsters.
Dude, you stole the words exactly from my mouth. I was gonna say these look like
Power
the villain of the
Rangers.
weeks in Power Rangers.
It does.
Like they
that always reminded me of giant beetles.
these things look so shoddily put together. Like I don't understand how anyone could ever find these things a threat. Nothing
Or call them
about
giants.
Yeah, or call them giants. Nothing about their form or function makes any sense.
Not to mention their entire plan whenever Bastion's escaping is to chop at the ends of the rope with their little tiny spinny things.
I don't even know what you would call that.
Dude, I don't know. Like, are they machines or are they actual creatures? Like, I can't tell.
I don't know.
They're
All I know is I could walk up to that thing and just give it a good shove. It'd fall over, and that would be the end of it.
And it would be done.
Well, here's the thing. That's how Bastion got rid of one of them. Later, he literally just pushed it.
Yeah,
and it fell off. And
did you have more comments?
Well,
Adrian?
and then Tri-Face. It's like, who designed him? It's like they took the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz, except instead of a woodsman, he's a beekeeper.
I also do you guys wonder? Do you guys wonder if he has 3 faces?
No, he has 4. Because it's a cube.
It did look like a cube to me.
Yeah,
it's called Tri-Face. I don't know
and
why
he
he's
painted
called
like
Tri-Face.
Alice in Wonderland cards on it for whatever reason, and gave him a Pillsbury Doughboy color scheme.
This movie has all the quality of The Wizard of Oz, which came out many years before this.
Wizard of Oz is better than this.
No, but the thing is, Silver City, for instance, all the inhabitants here, basically someone raided the props of like some carnival show or something, and just like, here, wear a bunch of multicolored veils and do weird things with your hands.
Just move slowly.
You talk with your hands.
Okay, so I do want to say about that, it doesn't make sense to me, because if you look at when they go to Fantasia in the first movie, the character design when they're in the city the first time, you see a lot of unique designs, none of which make it onto this. It's all just the masquerade look.
They did have a lot of like multi-faced, multi-headed people, but yeah, you're right. It's like they were sipping out of that sea of acid, when they designed these guys.
I'm sure there's a reason for it. It makes everything shiny.
Maybe they were.
So let's back up a little bit and talk about Nimbly, who's actually the first one we get to see.
What do you mean, 11 secret herbs and spices?
Stupid bird.
Guys, I don't even know where to start. This guy's just, it's such a step down from the first movie.
I'm going to say props to this guy for just donning a chicken costume and
going
doing
for it.
You know, that takes some courage there.
There was one moment when later on he did sell a convincing chicken.
Yeah, he did.
He's about the best part of it, even though it's kind of weird and out of place and makes no sense. But his acting, I think, is, if there's any positive, I can say it's not
for
terrible.
someone whose face is completely covered except for his eyes, he at least expresses through his eyes.
Yeah, has anyone seen the show Schitt's Creek?
Yep.
So later in some of the later seasons, Moira Rose portrays a bird witch lady, and it's for some B-C level movie,
if you can believe it.
and the accent and the manner in which she's performing, which is way over the top and catered to B-movie stylings.
Yeah,
it is, her vocal delivery is very similar to
my gosh,
the Nimbly in this, and Nimbly's trying to be earnest about it, which is I don't know. I just cringe. I cringe.
So, how did you guys feel about the Shirley Temple or Childish Empress?
Thank you for saying that.
Childish Empress.
Yeah. Well, we haven't gotten to that in the plot. I don't know if Reese is going to cover Smurg the Wish Dragon or not, because I don't think that was in the Wikipedia article.
Dude, there's so much to talk about.
That is all in this section. So we got Atreyu, we got Smurg, we got Falcor, whatever y'all want to say.
We have the opera singer.
Yeah, I'm gonna say
Sith
at
Falcor.
least this is the better half of the movie,
which is really sad.
It is only better because it is like constantly one-upping itself and how like outrageously
how dumb it is,
dumb and bad it is. Like what am I gonna see next? Like the second half of this movie just like eases itself into boredom.
This is a hard movie to cover. I'm just gonna say it doesn't leave you a lot of room to talk positively.
First of all, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I don't know. There are so many little nuggets in this beginning part that I laughed so hard. I really want to touch upon. Mm-hmm. So he descends after escaping the Beatles, Transformers, Giants, whatever the hell they are. And he falls down some weird little trap into a room where there's 3 figures.
The secret plots
And
room.
each of
The
them
secret
is
plots room.
and each of them is progressively worse than the last
I
one
know.
that you saw. Like,
Pretty sure one of the guys is like, is this Jabba the Hutt's lair from like C grade
I
knockoff
know.
everything?
It's
like Jabba the Hutt has a
gosh.
slug just downed a heavily salt rimmed margarita. He swapped all over his face and it's just melting.
and then there's the lady who just
The opera?
sing talks,
Looking for the child like a priest.
That was
Oh my
amazing.
gosh.
and then the volcano
There's a little
man.
volcano. There's like I don't even know where to begin.
I don't know why they were there.
It's something where it feels like it came straight out of a dream. And you feel like it's supposed to be symbolic, but then you realize there's absolutely nothing symbolic about it. It's just random crap.
It's
Yeah.
just
Did we-
antics, and
Did
it's
we
just
get
like
to the? Sorry, did we get to the dragon yet?
we're almost there.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
There's a shoestring of a plot, and then they just throw antics on top of it. I feel like it's just like
I feel
there's
like-
all these antics
like-
and weird little
They're just
visual.
ripped off
Yeah.
from other big movies too. Like there's some
Yeah.
Lord of the Ring elements, like Star Wars, like the whole like Empress
Yeah.
appears in this hologram, like was straight up off of like R2D2, and I'm pretty sure she
Yeah.
actually says you're our only hope
I
in
know.
that
Oh, she
hologram
does.
image.
She does.
Okay, Leia.
Irina made that comment while we were watching it. She was like, "Okay, Leia."
Well,
while
also
we were
like
watching it.
with this hologram, there's like static or something, and I was like, "What? Do they have bad connection here
Through
in
magic.
Fantasia?" Like I don't like
Sorry, the
bad
magic's not
magic
coming
going
through
on.
very well.
I don't know what
And I had
the,
the same thought as David. Is like this is knockoff Shirley Temple here. Like
yeah.
what happened to the
It
first
does
actress?
look like her.
Yeah, and because of this movie, this episode is gonna be super just disorganized.
It's all over the
But
place.
we did already I think we already passed Smurg, and who was wanting to talk about Smurg?
Oh, Noah
AJ?
was. I think
it was AJ
I think
and
both
Noah.
of them probably.
Smurg is the
The dragon that he makes a wish to
He conjures
create.
up.
yeah. I have one thing that I kind of wanted to ask AJ. So about the Auron. In the original story, did that actually grant the wishes?
It sort of did.
Yeah, and
Or-
actually, even kind of in the first, well, what was covered in the first movie Arn had kind of the ability to grant wishes, so there's overlap between the plot of the first movie and the second movie. The book obviously does it more in a finessed manner, but yeah, it's
Okay.
like Nimbly's so trying so hard, and obviously, hey, make a wish, make a wish, make a wish. It's like you're donating to child cancer or something like that. And it's just, and then he's like, hey, I'm make my wish first, and let's make this terrible dragon that accomplishes nothing is gonna set us back and destroy everything. That'll fix everything.
Yeah. Okay. So the
Bastion's just an idiot. Like that's all we need to learn from
and then
this. He's just-
everyone in the movie calls him clever or
Yeah.
smart.
I
Or,
know.
Oh, good idea.
Maybe
Yeah,
a sociopath.
but he makes the dumbest looking dragon. It's a freaking snail dragon. It's got these these eyes
Eye
popping
stalks.
out of its head.
I honestly think this scene just establishes that anyone that is involved in making Narnia,
Fantasia.
anyone that is involved in making Neverending Story movies just doesn't know how to make a
When
dragon.
they name him Smurg, it's like let's take Smaug from Lord of the Rings and cross it with
Yep.
Bjork or whatever
Zurg.
Wolf's name was from the first one.
Gamorg.
It's I can't. Like this was a roller coaster of what?
What?
They
kept like we said, they kept one upping themselves the whole movie.
They did, and I feel
Oh,
like
yeah.
it almost feels like they had set up a creative crew to do this film, and then for some reason that got hacked, and they're like, oh crap, what are we gonna do? How are we
Yeah.
gonna design this world? And they're like, you know what, you kind of like fantasy, you come up with something, and they just threw a bunch
Or-
of stuff
This
together.
honestly, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say to tee off Irina there. When we were watching this, she noticed something that I don't think I would have noticed otherwise, which is there are a couple shots where they reuse B-roll from the first movie.
Yeah, I was about to say this.
Yeah.
This reminds me of the later Jaws movies, where they literally just took the same shark that they used from the first couple and just it was his beaten up, doesn't look nearly as good, but they're like
Just
just
repurpose
use
it.
it. Budget problems.
Dude.
When they do a lot of the landscape shots and showing the mountains and Atreyu riding his horse from a far distance, they use the same shots from the first movie. And you're like, wait a second, that's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Speaking of Atreyu, I would say a downgrade.
I will say that. Hold on.
yeah.
Let me say something about that because he, similarly to the first one, isn't terrible. What is really bad is the writing this time because the way he was acting wasn't terrible, but
He acts like he's like one of the siblings on Tool Time.
Yeah.
Like,
It is a good
it's
day to
just
die.
like
It's the writing, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Home Improvement. Sorry.
It's Randy.
Yeah, he just
Yeah.
he acts like he walked right off the set of some sitcom where he's just one of 3 kids and he
That's-
just has some like
That's one of my complaints with this film is
Yeah.
that like I literally put a comment in here on my notes saying, are they trying to be funny? Like
Yeah.
there are so many taglines and one-liners that I'm like, I don't get it. Like,
a
are
good
you
day to
trying to
die.
incorporate 90s culture?
Yeah.
But it's ineffective. And
Yeah.
I can't.
So, amidst all of this chaos, and it's hard to decipher a plot, listeners, I'm sorry. This movie, you have to see it to believe it. But,
Don't see it.
You gotta
Bastion-
wish.
Yeah, Bastion escapes by locating Falcor, who, obviously what is more important than chasing after Smurg is he has to get that itch behind his ear.
Ugh.
Which
I've got an itch behind
they
my
make
ear.
it equally as orgasmic as it was in the first film.
Worse.
And I'm just like,
Worse.
Why?
Well,
No.
In that one, you could make a point saying, okay, he just likes how that feels. But this one, it was like, oh. And then he goes on.
It's like, all right, now we can ride.
And then we proceed into this chase sequence that is just absolutely awful. Like the Smurg looks like it was just a plastic model dangled from a string.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Like that.
Also, they did have a scene where whenever it showed from Bastion's POV, like when he was right directly in front of him, you see CGI wings flying, sort of, and then when you see the wide shot, it's just this toy dragon on a string. They're not consistent with it at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's actually how they did it, but
There's
that's
like-
what
We'll
it
say
looked
it
like.
is.
Every now and then they kind of incorporate this sort of Harryhausen stop motion effect for creatures, but like very infrequently. It's like just a mashup of weird special effects. And with Smurg, I think honestly they just had a little model in a flying pose, and they just had that stationary where they filmed like just a bunch of backgrounds flying behind it. And so then they just mashed that together.
Yeah.
And it just looks like, it's like, of all the things to focus on for this, a flight chase that has absolutely nothing to do with plot except show you where this hand is. Like, I don't...
Also, the dragon just dies
Why?
immediately. Smurg or whatever gets there, and then it blows up. Like, all right,
Well,
good, he's dead.
That's why they kind of loosely tried to tie it into figuring out where this lady's
Yeah.
lair is.
because it's funny because the whole reason he wished for Smurg was to transport and fly somewhere to find this fortress when Falcor was just sitting right there.
I know.
Are
job,
are,
Falcor.
are y'all ready for one of my sole positive notes about this movie?
All
well,
right.
we'll see.
I like at least there are recycled backgrounds in this movie from the first movie, which I hate, but there are also some new, almost, I think I read that they were pastel painting-ish
Yeah.
backgrounds. I like the colors.
Good job, Reese. You
like
found
the
it.
colors.
You found the positive.
The positive note for this film is I like the colors.
In a
I can
couple
agree,
of
I
the
guess.
scenes.
I can agree.
I like some of the colors, and I like the weird hand castle with the lasers that come out of the fingertips.
Remind me of
It's-
Eye of Sauron, like beaming
Yeah.
down and finding you.
Yeah, it's cheesy,
yeah.
but I think the look of it is, it's like, okay, we actually thought of something that we didn't recycle from the original, and that also wasn't terrible.
Again, I will say, heavily influenced from Power Rangers. Definitely looked
Yeah.
like some sort of hideout in Power Rangers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But I could see this background in I could see this aesthetic in, like, say, Dark Crystal or
Yeah.
Labyrinth or something like that. It's
There actually are
I
some
will admit
Labyrinth
that's
references
pretty.
in this one.
I think the movie that I kept thinking of while I was watching this was Flash Gordon. Like there's something very Flash
yeah.
Gordon about it, like the campiness of this world.
Yeah. Flash Gordon's great though because it's kind of like aware of itself.
It's
this
aware of what it's doing.
Yeah.
But this one is like let's make a really cheap ass children's film.
Yeah.
Other than Flash Gordon, I got Labyrinth references, as I'm sure a lot of you probably did, especially when they're showing
Labyrinth. No.
when they're holding up the glass balls or whatever to see his memories, and then they zoom in on it.
Literally wrote that down. It's like, what is with these movies and their deal with acrylic orbs? They just love those acrylic orbs.
They make for great transitions.
Speaking of this movie one-upping itself and how bad it is, the scene directly after this has what permanently sealed its fate in my mind.
It was like the perfect cherry on top and the moment that I could not wait for Noah to witness.
I know what you're going into.
And I referenced this last episode, so let's do it.
Yeah, go for it, Noah.
Well, I think you have yet to speak about it.
No, we're there. We're there.
We're there?
We're there. We all know what you're going to say.
We're at the little...
This paragraph has been kind of it's vague, but it's been all-encompassing of everything up until a certain point.
Noah's leaning up in his seat. He's preparing to speak.
Okay. So first of all, I'm sure everyone's aware if they listen to the last episode, my least favorite character of all time within this, it's not Falcor, it's the frickin' rock guy.
Yeah.
It's the frickin' rock biter.
Rock biter.
I hate this character. But the one way that they decide to somehow make it worse, let's give him a child.
Dada.
Great.
Hungry, Dada.
That makes it better.
Oh my god, he just this made me so
the moment I was watching this by myself, which that sounds very depressing.
It's sad,
but it's a truth that many of us share. But the moment that thing walks out into the frame,
did he poop?
I was
it?
like no, I guffawed audibly, and I was by myself, so that makes it even weirder. And I was like, I wrote in my notes, I cannot wait for Noah to see this.
Which I will also go off of that. Reese made a group text with us, Noah, without you in it, specifically to show us like his note on this monster, but he didn't want you to know it yet. He's like, guys, when Noah gets to this part.
Dude, like,
it's one of those things that you're not supposed to do. It's like you do Son of
so
Mask.
bad.
It does not work. You do this is somehow worse than
They
that.
should make a spin-off, Son of Rockbiter.
so the thing that's supposed to happen in like I feel every scene with a campfire is that it's this sense of camaraderie, everyone's coming together, you start to learn a little more about their lives and stuff like that. With this one, it has the Rockbiter and his son, I guess. They didn't specify a gender.
Maybe. He calls him Junior.
Yeah, whatever.
Junior?
I think it identifies
Junior.
as igneous.
So
Also,
sorry, I was just going to say, like, when they're talking about this plight, the emptiness or whatever, he's talking about how basically the children or the people of Bastion's world are forgetting this one, and if they can't create sorry, I'm distracted.
No.
If they can't remember this world, then these characters don't have a life, essentially. Like, they don't get to do things. And then Rockbiter says, like, yeah, and Junior won't have fun things to do. And I'm just like,
Junior,
Like,
I don't care about Junior. Where the heck is your wife, Rockbiter?
Noticed that
he ate her.
like Rockbiter is the most
No, it's his rolly thing.
For the good.
He rode her and ate her.
He's like a Black Widow. What is that?
No, the female eats the male in that situation.
I've also noticed that the Rockbiter is the most useless character in both of these movies.
He's
Like
got
his
big,
only
strong
job.
hands.
Maybe that's what his wife liked about him. He's really good at manhandling.
Guys, what are we doing here?
His only job is to just sit on his butt and be like, the nothing or the emptiness. What am I to do?
All right, I will say.
How can I have a life not having a life?
Something-
There isn't a life to not have
With-
a life.
But Junior!
When it came to the first movie, the positive thing about Rockbiter, I think, is how well they played with perspective. and they lost it all in this one too.
Yeah,
That's
purely
another
aesthetic.
thing.
That's the only positive about Rockbiter.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, they lost the perspective. Like this one, I was like, yeah, this is not right. This does not look
You
right.
could also tell that from the first one with the Rockbiter eating rocks, that whole like cascading of the stones effect. In this one, they're like, oh yeah, that was cool. Let's do that again. And
Yeah, and
it's not.
their solution is like, let's make some dust fall in the baby Rockbiter's eyes.
That's funny.
When are you going to learn to tell noses from rocks?
What was that comment?
That line.
What was that?
I noticed that one.
Apparently a cocaine reference.
All
I
right,
guess.
let's move on.
Wait.
Let's
Before
talk
you move
about
on.
the assault
Hang on.
on the fortress, because I think that's covered in
Yes.
this paragraph.
No.
So-
There's one
Wait.
comment I want to make about the rock camp situation
Okay.
before we move on.
David
which
and I are. Oh,
I
we
knew
laughed
I could
so
see
hard.
your eyes, Irina.
The wheels.
I'll
were
let you
turning.
talk about
No,
it.
that's okay. That's okay.
They're sitting around the campfire, and Atreyu and Bastion are planning for their assault, I guess. And because I think they're showing the
I know
rock
what
biter
you're
right
saying.
beforehand, and then they show someone drawing 3 arrows.
Three
This
arrows
is
in the
actually-
sand.
This
And
is
then
actually in the
and then
next paragraph.
Bastion. Oh really?
Yeah, sorry.
Well, anyway, we'll lead into the next paragraph with this. And then Bastion says, so that's the plan. And I'm just like,
Just 3 arrows.
What?
Thank
It's
you.
gonna have to work.
what am I supposed
yeah.
to get from
But
this?
then you watch the
It'll
rest of the
be
movie,
dangerous.
and there is absolutely no plan anywhere in
Not
the
at all.
entire movie.
All right.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah, I want to make 2
Back-
points on the assault, so go ahead and do your bit.
It's literally in the first part of this next paragraph. Bastion and Atreyu seek out and capture Zaida. She seems to abandon her quest for power and agrees to lead the two to the childlike Empress. During the travel to the Empress's castle, Zaida tricks Bastion into believing that his friends will turn against him and manages to get him to wish for a series of ridiculous wishes. It also becomes obvious to Atreyu that they are being led aimlessly. Meanwhile, Bastion's father, Barney, has noticed his son's disappearance. He finds the Neverending Story in Bastion's room and sees a sticker on the front cover listing the bookstore's address. Coriander, who simply tells him that he will find the answers to his son's whereabouts inside the book. Returning later with a police officer, Barney is shocked to see the bookstore abandoned. Eventually, Barney reads the book and is surprised to see his son's exploits in Fantasia being written by the book itself, and that he is mentioned within. Okay, so you wanted to talk about the plan? We already
Yeah,
talked
here's
about
The plan and
Here
the
it is.
actual assault itself.
AJ.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we talked about the arrows in the sand. That was amazing. And the plan pretty much went spectacular because of that. So they basically go ring the doorbell, and it's like, well, maybe I can just walk in. And then we see the lobster guys again.
They do look like lobsters.
And then they go back, and Atreyu has his plan. He summons his warriors that were in this, potato sack or whatever, and puts these eggs down. And we have literally a charge assault of firecracker guys.
Fire.
That's exactly what I
army.
said.
And I just wanted so badly that they actually made Atreyu green like he was in the book for this scene. It
I
would've been
know.
so
Oh,
amazing.
That's
it
all
would've
it.
been
That's all
great.
it needed.
But and then so you have Bastion climbing up the side, and it's literally like DJ Khaled making wishes here. He's like, another step. I want another one.
Another.
And it's just like so frustrating because in the beginning of the movie, he's like, hey, this is actually doing pretty good at holding restraint on making these wishes here, even though Nimbly's making him, hey, make a wish about, whatever. And then here he's just
Dude.
like,
Step at a
man, I
time.
want another step. No, it's not wish for
Bastion,
me getting
why don't
into
you
the
just-
castle.
Why don't you just say, hey, give me the amount of steps I need to get to the top of this?
Okay.
One
But
wish
no,
over.
no,
Child is
Not only that, he
dumb.
would have been in a vegetative state at the rate he was going
Yeah,
through
it-
those
it was
wishes. He
dumb.
would have just fallen off the side of the building.
I will say though, he didn't realize the gravity yet of what making wishes meant. What I will say that confused me is the fact that he says, "Get me away to the top," and all these steps go up the wall or whatever. But I guess the wish was like, "I will only get you halfway there." Like, whatever, man.
Bro, you're gonna
You
have
gotta
to wish
for
at
the
least
rest.
3 times
one.
before I do all the way.
Also, I have to call this. I have to call this out when they do use the fireworks. The freaking quote unquote giants. They do this. They almost look like they're dancing in the fireworks. They're just
Yeah.
like they're. I don't know.
Maybe they're just
Gosh,
really
this
innocent because they're
movie.
never actually hurt.
No, you just
They never
can't
hurt
ever
anyone.
make them look like what they what they intended them to look like. They don't look intimidating.
What if they're just actually these really nice guys that just like, oh man, is it party time? Let's dance.
That would be an actual interesting development in the story.
Yeah, and those buzzsaws are just pinwheels, like for a parade.
I just love how their mouths are constantly going.
Yeah. And then they're going down from the top, and Atreyu gets caught in this chain, and Bastion's leaning over the edge, and they can't seem to grab each other's hands, even though neither of them are actually making any real effort to reach each other.
Yeah,
it's like,
I also love how his wish for a weapon was a spray can.
Don't even get me started on that.
He didn't even say what was in the spray can. He just said spray can.
Well, yeah, it could be anything. It could be WD-40, and that could help
Cheese
him.
whiz.
Darn, this one's red. I wanted it blue.
Wouldn't you love it if you know, like Rambo had the wishes, so you're like, I want a flamethrower. Just like
instead we get
oil can.
Yeah, so he sprays the useless lobster giants in the face, and they fall into a pit because they're useless. Okay.
And even Atreyu's like, what do you do with that on Earth? And he's like, use them against walls. He's like, those walls must be dangerous.
They're even more useless than those weird
even after his line is
droids
like,
in
it's a
Star
good day to
Wars.
die.
Yeah.
Before he sends his
No.
fireworks out.
I will say that line feels like they meant for it to be campy, which is why that line works for me, because it's like, okay, that's so dumb.
Well,
and
it's
this movie's
because
so dumb, I'll allow it.
that line is kind of a culturally attributed thing to Plains Indians. Like the warriors would say it's a good day to die, kind of whatever. As part of their warrior culture. I think that's kind of what they were pulling for here.
So they thought about this?
I guess,
this
but then he
is-
said it again like later in the movie, and it's like, okay.
This is more insensitive towards that culture than the first one was. At least in the first one, they did the decency of making him a little more ambiguous. Mm-hmm. You know, with this one, they're like straight up giving him those little leather tassels and
The bow and arrow.
moccasins and bow and arrow and whatever.
Also, whenever he is hanging from that chain or whatever, and he needs to get him to come back, he says, swing over. And then he, like, makes a slight movement, and he's like, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And
he literally hands him
have you
one
ever
link of the
swung?
chain that
Like,
doesn't
you can-
even
you can-
extend how far he could
He
reach in the first
hands
place.
him the chain. He could have just grabbed
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Exactly.
Stupid. It
So-
was dumb.
We should talk about Zaida.
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 Gosh, I'm
You're
never
the
gonna.
worst with this, Reese.
In her intro shot, it
Gold
shows
duck.
her with no face first, and then she puts some magic, face powder on herself, and then she suddenly has a face. It never follows up with that later. What was the point of her not having a face?
Because emptiness or something. I don't know.
understand.
And
'Cause
also,
she's not human.
Is her motivation just like?
Maybe that's where
Is it
Tri-Face's
literally-
fourth face came from.
Is it literally as simple as I just want power?
Okay, I brought this up to Irina when we were watching it. I was like, what is the end game here? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
What is her goal?
Yeah, it's
Never
just
say
like
it.
I want to control Fantasia.
She says, I want to control everything
empty.
that is empty and bring order back to
So-
chaos. That was her literal monologue of why she wants to do
Yeah.
anything.
It doesn't make sense because
It's for children,
what?
okay?
Also, she kind of looks like Kate Beckinsale, but I'll just leave it at that.
Also, do you guys like her glittery red wings that obviously look like she bought it at Spirit Halloween Shop?
The red
Yes.
wings
Yep.
were fine, actually. It was her dress afterwards that was green and pointed and stuff. It looked like something off the set of Black Panther, but set on the moon.
Yep.
I could be into that sequel. Black Panther, set on the moon. Let's go.
That'd be kind of cool, actually.
Maybe she's just, following that Aida Egyptian, namesake, I guess. But Zaida with an X.
So this is also when the dad starts reading the podcast. Reading the podcast. This is also when the dad starts reading the book, and is it just me or does this dad seem weirdly kind of apathetic?
He's an
but also
engineer.
Like, oh, my
okay.
son's missing. Oh, well, let me read this book.
Let me check the bookstore. That's where he'll be.
Don't
Not
call the police.
And I'll just
He's
read
been
this book in
missing
traffic.
overnight.
My son's in this book?
What?
Whoa.
I'm in this
He can
book.
ride a horse?
I can't ride a
That
horse.
horse line was funny because it actually referenced the intro in the beginning of the first movie, where his dad is like, and you want to take equestrian lessons or riding lessons, and you're too afraid to get on a horse. So that was the one shining cool moment of the second movie where they referenced that. It's like,
Yeah,
they
Bastion
said
doesn't
that-
ride. He doesn't ride horses.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that was an accident, but
I don't think it was.
It wasn't. It's just that they keep trying to throw in things from the first film to connect it, but absolutely nothing else connects, to the point where it's like it's pointless to even reference the first one, because this is something completely different. You have all different actors too, except one. I don't understand. It bears no significance for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Also,
then Bastion
is...
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Bastion is such an idiot for falling for, guys, say her name.
Zaida.
Zaida. And her influence, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, are you meaning to tell me that after all this time of all you reading about Atreyu, that you're going to abandon that and believe Zaida?
Yeah.
Yep. That's
This
what
is
I
once
was
his
going to
necklace,
say
man.
too. And she like gives him this invisibility belt, and that's where David, like another one of those recycled footage, is exactly the same footage of the second time around.
Yeah.
Bastion's the worst.
So
He is.
I think the only thing I could argue in his defense here, it's not written at all in a way for you to really catch on to this, is maybe to some degree he was sort of envisioning her as his mother or a motherly figure. So he kind of wants to establish that as kind of a replacement in a way. But that's the only thing I could argue here. And
And
don't
he did
make that
he did
effective
witness
at
that
all.
moment between Falcor and Atreyu and
Yeah.
his invisibility or cloak or whatever. I don't know, belt.
But that was after he already had kind of distrusted them.
Yeah.
It's this story is basically a dumb hero surrounded by dumb villains. Like
That
Dumb
moment,
hero surrounded by dumb people.
that moment where Atreyu and Bastion have a confrontation over Arin, the medallion, it almost reminded me of Sam and Frodo, almost to Mount Doom, and Sam's like, I'll share the load, I'll carry the ring for you. And it was like, it just kind
not,
of like
not
almost trying to,
well.
reference that, but I don't know if that was intentional or not, but
Also, like, can we mention real quick how unless Bastion made some sort of like strength enhancing wish, he would have been whooped by Atreyu. Like he would have been completely
There were
and
so
utterly
many
dominated.
When Irene and I were watching that, though, when they were having that fight, both of us were like, no.
Yeah, but
Atreyu would have lifted him with one hand by his head, just like...
If there were so many instances where Atreyu could have pulled rank on him. It was like, you're just a dumb little trashy white kid.
You little Earth boy.
From Canada, I guess. And, excuse me, I'm a warrior. A child, maybe, but I'm a warrior, so...
Which is why I still think his character in this isn't terrible. It's just the writing that's really bad.
Yeah.
But
I just attributed his stupidity to him losing too many memories, and he just, his IQ's going down to double digits here.
in the end,
Honestly.
can we not all just question
along.
why? Yeah, exactly. Get along. Can we not question why he doesn't just use his wishes from the very beginning? One wish.
Yeah, he's just like, can I have the princess or
Boom,
childlike
it's
empress?
over.
Because he has,
exactly.
he has to name the emptiness.
Yeah, find the empress and then name her.
Bastion idiot.
Yeah, basically.
That's all I will
He is
say.
an idiot.
Yeah.
The emptiness as in his mind.
Yeah. He's vapid.
She can't make him any more vapid than he already is.
One of my comments here when I was making notes was basically, Bastion, this is the savior of Fantasia. They're in poor hands.
Yep.
Like, I don't know how they're going to survive.
Atreyu determines what Zaida is planning, while Bastion is fully persuaded that Atreyu has turned on him. In a struggle between the two, Atreyu is knocked over a cliff and falls to his death. Returning to Zaida, Bastion discovers the apparatus for himself and learns that he only has 2 memories left, consisting of his mother and father.
Sounds about right.
Bastion uses his penultimate memory of his mother to wish Atreyu back to life. Zaida tries to force Bastion to use his last wish to return home. Bastion agrees to do so, but wishes for the sorceress to have a heart instead. This fills Zaida with emotion, negating the emptiness within her. Overcome with compassion, Zaida explodes in a blast of light, and Fantasia is restored.
That's how that happens.
See, this
All
is
right.
Wizard of Oz.
Ugh.
You have Zaida the witch. She earns a heart. You have the 10 beekeeper. He gets brain juice from the memory machine.
Brain juice.
And then 11 Secret Herbs and Spices chicken guy gets a conscience, I guess.
Yeah.
He did get a conscience,
So
actually.
dumb.
Also,
It's
how
Wizard
like
of Oz.
how like unimpressive was Atrey's death? He just like tumbles off a hill, and I guess he's dead. All right.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I was like, wow, that was rude. And then later they say he was dead. And I was like, he died from that?
That's what I was.
He's dead?
Like
That's
Atrey's
what I
supposed
was
to be this
Wait, Bastion killed him?
And then he like instantly says like, "It's your fault."
You did this to yourself.
Yeah.
And also, I will
terrible
say
kid.
there is a little bit of positive in here, and I guess I am speaking a little early, so I will save it for later. Actually, it has more to do with his wish with her, but there's so many more things we can cover in between that I'll get to that later.
I just wished make everything right. That would have been my wish.
You're talking
mean,
about the wish that like gives her a conscience? Or
Yeah, I
compassion
think
or
that
whatever?
is at least that has some semblance of intellect that
Yeah.
the rest of the movie doesn't have. And you know what? I'm going to attribute it to the book. I haven't read it. I
Well,
don't know if that's what they
I
did,
was-
but I'm going to say it.
I was thinking about this, and since I've actually been, trying to rack my brain for another movie, and I know there is one, maybe book, where the good guy defeats the bad guy, this evil bad guy, by giving him a heart, and the bad guy sees the error of his ways, can't handle it, and like commits suicide or something. And I don't know if y'all if
Les
that
Mis.
rings a bell for something like that, but it's
Yeah.
something
Oh,
else
yeah.
other than this that, right? It's on the tip of my tongue.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Well, David just said at least one. I don't know if you heard him, but Les Mis.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, you're right. That is one. I don't think that's what I was thinking of. It could be, but you're right. Linus.
Yeah, I don't know why, but the way you described it reminded me of not Valjean, Javert. There we go.
I
Yeah.
guess you're
Jabba.
meaning something a little almost more literal than that one though.
Yeah, there's a little bit more like magic involved in it, where he
Yeah.
literally touches him and it like he opens his eyes and I don't know.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So
Yeah.
for my second and last positive note about this movie, I actually like Bastion's horse ride to go, whatever he's doing. I don't even remember.
He's going to Atreyu and Falcor.
Yeah, his mad dash to wherever. I love that scene where Zayade conjures this green.
No one correct him.
It sounds
No.
like you're messing around, but
I'm not.
Anyway.
I'm not. I do
Zaida.
not know
Zaida.
I do not know that name. For some reason, it is just like making a pretzel in my brain when I try to say it. Zayade.
Yeah.
Zayade.
But when Zayade conjures that green, was it wrong again? Zayada.
There you go.
When Zayada creates that, I'm good. Do I even want to
Come
talk
on, you
about
got
it?
When the evil sorceress.
When the evil sorceress. When the evil sorceress Zayada conjures that green magical hand that
Yeah.
grasps Bastion by his head as he's
Knocks him into
jumping
the cavern.
across that crevasse. I think that's a cool scene where he
Yeah.
falls into the river.
Well, that makes one person.
I actually think that's a cool scene because
Weirdly,
I
watching
laughed.
him being grabbed by his head made me happy.
It was so funny.
But I like the effects.
Not
I
the
like
kind of way
it-
Falcor wanted to grab him by his head.
Oh,
Oh gosh.
Speaking of Falcor, real quick, what's with half of these shots having him as like glowing red eyes, like Iron
Yeah.
Giant triggered mode?
I put in my notes Sith Falcor.
So the
glowing red
the
eyes.
only thing I can think of with that one, and it seems superfluous compared to everything that went wrong with this movie, is that maybe in the first one, I know in the book he's described as having red
ruby.
eyes.
Yeah, he has ruby
Yeah.
eyes in the
He has
book,
ruby
but
eyes. But then in the first one, they don't really. But in
Right.
this, they're like, oh, you know what? Let's make it more accurate.
but
with
only in
his
half the
eyes.
shots.
Yeah, I don't understand why.
So AJ, you noticed that too, where it wasn't consistent with his
Yeah,
eyes.
like
Yeah.
first it's like he's just got brown irises, white sclera, and then like next shot you see him at the campsite, it's like everything is red, like
Yes. Thank you. I
evil
thought I was
robot mode,
crazy.
like kill everything.
Because we were watching this, and later in the movie, when they were really obviously red, I was like, "Wait, why did they change his eyes? Is he evil now?"
I have a feeling it had something to do with the light that was being reflected into it.
I guess.
It's just
you mean poor production?
yeah. I have a feeling the other scenes where it just light wasn't
Maybe,
reflected
but I just
into
saw a scene while I'm watching it right now where it's like you have your eyes, you have the sclera, which is the white part of your eyes, and you have the iris, which is the colored part of your eyes around the pupil. So some shots it's white, then brown iris, and then the other shot is like red iris with still white around it. Another shot is like literally everything is red.
All red.
That does make his behind the ear scratch seem a little more sinister.
Yeah, it was always sinister.
He wishes that the Empress has a heart.
No.
The witch has a heart.
There you go.
Witch has a heart. Man, I hate this movie.
I mean, for all we know, the
Which-
childlike empress doesn't have a heart either. She seems kind of a little
Yeah, she's
psychotic as well.
She's
Which
just hiding.
also,
She's a
though,
cold
that
bitch.
that wish, it wouldn't even work that way. Clearly, it's been stated that the way you wish, it's taken very literally in the form of that really dumb snail dragon earlier.
Like a Pinocchio's
She probably already has an actual heart unless she's hollow, but in which case it would just, if she didn't have one, well, now she has a physical heart, and
Now
that's
she's
not
Doctor
going to
Who
give her
with
a
two hearts.
conscience. Yeah, that's stupid.
All right.
I thought it was like, honestly, let's give Bastion some credit. This
Yeah.
is the first time
This was
where
a
he
positive
was like,
note of the movie.
he made the right choice. I hate saying
That's
it.
why I
hate hearing
said
that.
it was one of the positive notes for me.
Yeah, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
you finally made the right wish. Whatever, Bastion, take your one win of this movie. It doesn't save you.
Yeah,
Yep.
but
But-
he should have forgot everything. Isn't that right? After that,
So we
it's
also
one of those things where you feel you can't imagine his brain actually making that connection that she would, destroy herself. It's just like an offhand comment where he's just like, I wish you had a heart, like a 90s retort.
yeah.
And then somehow it ended up resulting in the saving of their universe.
Yeah.
He's like, I didn't even think of that.
Oh, it worked.
We also get Nimbly's change of heart, who
cares?
whatever.
I called it from the first
yeah,
time he
like
looked
because
at
it's
the
so
sphere.
telegraphed.
Well, at least he has
yeah,
some
he's gonna
progression where
convert.
he's watching the memories. Like you see that
Yeah.
kind of happening. To their credit.
He's honestly kind of like a golem that went good instead of bad.
But I was also
Like, for me.
I was also confused because when he looks at that memory of Bastion's mother dying or whatever and saying we're all part of a never-ending story or whatever,
Blech.
he starts crying. He's all like, "That's good to know." And not long after that, there's a scene where Bastion sees that they're collecting his memories or whatever. And he's like, "You only have 2 left, ha ha ha." Like, I don't know this quick turnaround of emotion. And then suddenly he's back on.
He saw, the thing is, if I'm not mistaken, he saw one of Bastion's memories and was moved by it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just what did it for him. Because I don't,
Yeah,
they
but
don't
the-
establish his character well enough for you to really buy it.
Yeah. But it's the timing of it. It's like there's this quick back and forth between
Yeah.
emotions.
It's because
that
the
doesn't
speed of
make
darkness
sense.
is faster than the speed of light, according to Zaida.
Everyone
Which makes
knows
no
that.
sense.
but yeah, Reese, she's remarking about the fact that there's a scene where he's touched by that memory, and then the direct scene after that is him like conspiring kind of with the bad guys again, and then the scene after that, he's like, "Oh, I'm good now.
I'm on your side.
You're just gonna have to trust me, I guess."
That's what happens when your movie's like less than 90 minutes long.
Yeah.
You just have to just really condense
But
everything.
feels like
It's just
3
interesting.
hours.
Like Falcor's definitely noticeably less prominent role in this movie, where he's kind of a supernatural being, I guess, so to speak, where he kind of knows what's going on. He's telling Atreyu like this is what's happening, but he's just sitting there literally the whole time. Like he doesn't move a
yeah.
muscle to try and interfere or help or like fix
Yeah,
anything.
same with last movie. He's not helpful at all. Falcor sucks.
That's because the people involved with this film didn't want to do the legwork to make him actually move.
Yeah. I think they pretty much just used the same model and just placed him in one area and
Yeah.
just had him say things.
Yeah.
Well, you were
This movie
talking about
made-
Nimbly, and we talked about it a little bit earlier. I think the actor that played him, at least, did a good job
Yeah.
of mimicking a bird-like movements and things with how he, kind of used leg work and squatted a little bit
Yeah.
and the arms and moved his
he
head.
at least tried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say he is not good, but he is better than some of the other aspects of this movie.
Well, with the
give
baseline
you
of what
that.
this movie is, yeah.
Yeah, he's at least he's like a slight form of life in an otherwise just completely dead landscape.
If I had to live in this world, that would be a nightmare for me. Like, the happiest setting of this is worse than the complete darkness
Also,
that they always have as the bad guy.
While
Like,
I was-
that would be my nightmare.
while I was watching this, I love fantasy films and I love the worlds and exploring them. But this was one of the few films where when it would jump back to reality, I was kind of relieved.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was like,
exactly.
okay,
It's
good.
just like,
Some sort of stability.
Even though the dad literally cares, very minimally about his son's well-being, I guess. Let's just keep reading this book. Let's hope it all turns out.
Yeah.
You could do it, Sebastian.
But
I was about to fall down the Niagara.
Voice.
Grab a tree branch or something, dude.
Yes.
You'll be fine.
before we go into the final part of this, I do think the destruction of Fantasia is kind of cool, even though it's kind of
Is it?
been there, done that.
Yeah.
We've seen that before.
You just like destruction, Reese. You
How
just
many
like
times
seeing
I like
things
the
destroyed.
The practical look of it falling away into like I don't know how they accomplish it, but it looks cool.
Dumb? Oh, yeah, cool. That's what I was gonna say.
Thanks.
I honestly don't even
yeah.
remember what you're talking about.
Well,
don't either.
Fantasia starts to be destroyed. I don't know
Rumble.
by the.
This is after he wishes the witch has a heart.
I don't know.
At this point, we don't know.
It has to be before.
So there's
I watched this
obviously
movie
a sense of
twice and I don't
emptiness about
know.
this moving that is, kind of overflows to the audience.
Yeah.
Also, like, it kind of another problem with this movie is that it kind of undoes everything that the first one did. It's like, you need to call me a name and make all these things happen, and then everything will be fine. And then in the next movie, like, yeah, it's not fine. Emptiness now.
It's not fine.
Come back.
You're wishing too much.
It's not the nothing anymore. It's now the emptiness.
Yeah. It's just, it's
Same
just
story,
like,
different problem.
All right,
Like,
let's
I don't know.
let's close out the story here. It's
yeah.
been we've spent enough time with this. Having been freed, the childlike empress thanks Bastion for his help, while Bastion gives her the Orin amulet and shows him the way home, a cliff overlooking a waterfall to help Bastion overcome his fear of heights. Encouraged by Barney and Atreyu, Bastion jumps off and returns home safely while the Orin amulet magically goes back onto the book cover.
So this
Now
was
are we-
all just so he could do a high dive.
Yep.
are we talking about Purple Dinosaur Barney? Because at this point, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if Purple Dinosaur Barney appeared in this movie.
I will say that when it came to this, it made no sense to me.
The message of the movie is face your fears. That's all it is. Like, okay, now Bastion can join the swim team. Like that's like the thing that this movie reaches for.
It feels like a cult to me, where it's like, dive off the waterfall, do it. Why don't
And
you it'll
overcome
take
your
you to a
memories, overcome the emptiness of your sad memories.
This is such a wasted opportunity, and in some ways I'm kind of grateful that they bastardized the story so much, because if they had tried to keep it accurate, they would have completely butchered it. But it's
You make
I
a
don't
good
even know.
You're assuming they didn't try.
They didn't try at all. No. It's just I don't know. It deviated so much from what the actual focus is supposed to be, and I don't even know what moral plot to follow with this. So it's incredibly mixed and confusing.
Yeah.
Also, I'm just going to go back to Reese's idea of what was cool with the destruction of Fantasia. It was a model set where they just literally like broke apart the floor.
It looked cool.
It didn't look that bad.
I was just watching it and I was like, yep, that's a model.
It looked cool.
All right.
It did.
All right. Let's just
Looked
move on.
fine. Practical.
Watch it and tell us yourself, audience.
They'll
No.
agree with me.
Please don't watch this movie.
If you listened to my apology letter, you would know that we should not.
Unless you're the kind of people who like to put together a team of friends who like to watch bad movies, which we have done in
Unless
the
you're
past.
someone,
Turn it into a drinking game.
Or if
Yeah,
you're a
that's true.
masochist.
Oh,
I
by the
guess.
way, Reese, this would definitely make our bad movie list, which
Yeah,
we should
this-
put out there for the audience
This
someday.
would make our bad movie night list.
This might be the worst, actually.
All right. Has everyone said their piece on this?
I think
story?
so.
Yeah, I have no
End
more
it.
to say about it.
All right, let's close it out. When we come back, we're going to be talking about this movie, giving it a brief review, and talking about the franchise as a whole and how this film affected its franchise.
Thank you, Jesus.
See you then. Welcome back. Y'all ready to review this movie?
Let's do it.
Yay.
All right.
I'm excited.
So first, I mentioned it before. We're going to review this movie, give it our numbered scores, which David has in a bowl.
I do.
He will pull at random. And then we will talk about this franchise as a whole and whether or not Neverending Story 2, the second or the next chapter, affected this franchise in a positive or negative way.
That's funny, Reese.
All right. David, you want to pull our first review?
Mm-hmm. I got it right here. Let's see who goes first. And I swear if it's me, it's not. Irina with a 1.
Hey.
1 out of 10.
I tried to give it a 2, but I couldn't do it. So the thing is, yes, there are things about this where you can see that there was work done, but the word I can put on this is sloppy. Everything is incredibly sloppy.
Yeah.
And if people put a lot of work into this, it was not showcased well.
Yeah,
And
Can I interject real quick?
Yeah, sure.
I heard the director only had people do... It was like one take for everything, almost.
All right.
Where
well,
they would have... He would
there
just
you
be
have
like...
it.
Have people do like just a very minimal amount of practice or
Yeah.
rehearsing, and then it would just be like one take.
Well, then
like,
there
oh,
you go.
good
It
enough.
sounds like sounds like the director did not care at all. So
Did they get Tommy Wiseau?
I think, honestly, Tommy Wiseau would have done a better job than this.
He might have
And he could have
improved
done
it,
it in
yes.
one room.
You know, you're right,
I would love to
actually.
see him play
It would have been
Trivia.
much more entertaining, too.
Okay, so anyway, back to my review. I guess that answers it for me. This is all incredibly sloppy. People didn't care, and that was apparent. Therefore, a 1. And that's it.
Bad.
1. That is going to be
Worst.
hard to go lower than in the
Worst
future.
score ever.
All right. Next one.
Is me, David, with a 1.5. I basically...
Man, this is the new Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, isn't it?
Worse.
It's a 1,000 times worse.
No, I was making... Well, you rated this a 1.5, which is probably much higher than what everyone else gave it.
No, I don't think so. I
Okay.
think I'm right in the mix. She gave it a 1. I gave it a 1.5. It was a toss-up between 1 and 2. Therefore, I split the difference. I feel like, honestly, it's similar sentiments. I just gave it that half-point boost because there are a couple times that made me go, eh. And that's that 0.5 boost. It's the, eh. So, 1.5. That's all I have to say. See it if you like bad movies.
And why 1.5? But just did
It's-
a couple of...
It's bad. And then you had a couple moments where you're like, meh, I guess that'll
So
work.
What were your moments?
The bird sometimes did okay things. His wish at the end was all right, and the continuity sometimes made sense, sort of.
Okay.
Sometimes, very rarely. So I didn't enjoy watching it, other than a couple laughs in the beginning, and then it all came crumbling down. And
Like the rock biter's food.
exactly, I was looking for a good positive moment in this movie, and 0.5 is about as good as I can do on top of that 1.
All right.
So let's move on to the next one. Next score up on the list is Reese with a 2. Reese, are you going to be the highest score?
Guys, listen for a sec. Colors.
You make a valid point.
Colors, man. So you're saying colors are worth a whole point?
I would say there are a couple of like decisions in this movie that I think are not disastrous. And that, in my mind, 1 is the lowest score you can ever achieve. I don't think you can go lower than it. And I think this does the bare minimum, at least, to be slightly more than that.
So it's not Birdemic.
Yeah. It and the plot, there's a first, second, third act, it completes all of those. If I mean, I know they're not good, but it at least like it has the framework of a story, and there are a few colorful, interesting sights. And
Would you watch it again?
as much as I despise Bastion, there's at least like a message to the movie, and it's like conquer your fears, and he conquers his fear. Like, so it accomplishes a goal, however,
Poorly.
it is. It passes the finish line. I mean, so for that I give it 1 point above a 1. It gets a 2. And colors, guys. Colors.
Colors are important.
It has some color, man. So yeah, 2. I'm going to stick by it. 2.
All right. Well, let's move on to our next score, which is going to AJ. Also a 2.
All right.
So Reese actually took the words right out of my mouth. I completely agree word for word with what he said. Well, yeah.
All the colors.
Unironically, yes. And I'm kind of a sucker for artistic B-roll, which is really what's giving this that too, which is like boils down to colors. And like Reese said, this makes it onto film with the semi-structured plot with a couple acts and stuff happens. And I'm sure that this is not the worst film that has ever made it onto film. So it's
Birdemic.
I don't know. It is what it is. The only kind of shame that I'm realizing out of all this is I gave Girl in the Spider's Web a 2.5, which is only half a point higher than this.
Yeah,
which
that
is
movie's much more competent.
Yeah, which is not fair to Girl in the Spider's Web, as much as I detest saying that because I really loathe that movie.
It does make you realize there is a lower bar.
Yeah, so at least
bar.
Girl in the Spider's Web had some, fun action shots. But like Reese said, and it's got semi-structure, it's got semi-artistic value in certain spots. And just because I don't want to paint myself into a corner, just God forbid we watch something worse than this, and then I can't go lower than what we've said already. So, I guess I'll stick
with it.
Yeah.
All right, we're 2 buddies. High five.
All right, moving on to a score. If I can grab the paper out.
I mean, we all know who's next.
Oh no, here it is. It's Noah with a 1. Also a 0.
Also a 0.
Noah
This
likes.
is because he was told he couldn't do lower
I
than
feel like he wrote 0 first, and then Reese is like, "You can't give it a 0." Anybody out there, Noah? And then Noah's like, "Crap." He gave it a 1.
But he has to know you. He has to know you.
I got 2 words for you. Rockbiter's son.
That's 3 words.
No, it's not.
Is
That's
Rockbiter 1?
Rockbiter is the name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rockbiter's.
That's it.
It's all his fault.
Yeah. Like, everything else is utterly terrible, but that would propel it into negative numbers for me usually. But I'm being generous this time.
Yeah.
All right.
The
That's
fact
all you
that
gotta say,
there's a third movie of this has to be worse, and I can't even imagine.
It is.
Yeah.
I've
Even
heard
though
it
it went
is-
direct to video, like this.
I've heard it is disastrously worse than this movie.
Yeah, and
See,
what-
Oh!
My
something.
scoring's... Sorry, go ahead.
Well, real quick, something that I didn't mention, which we talked about a little bit more in the last episode about the first movie, was the score. And so this score definitely really does not stack up to the first movie's soundtrack.
No.
It didn't nearly keep the action to propel it forward with the motion and energy and stuff like that. There were a couple highlights and you still have the main theme.
I'll say it is a score.
Yeah,
It's something.
there's sound.
Do I remember it?
You often
No.
forget that it's there.
Which I'm pretty
I don't
sure I would
remember it at
rather
all.
watch some silent films than this movie again. But
Yeah.
I will say it's better than that one movie with Jason Statham. It's like
Crank.
this fantasy movie.
I don't
Oh, In the Name of the King.
In the Name of the King.
And
it's
Name
funny
of the
that you
King is
mentioned
better
that.
than this.
But
Significantly,
but-
actually.
that's like
but
my
the music.
guilty pleasure terrible movie for some
Yeah.
reason. I don't know why.
I know.
Finally,
I know.
a
That's
man
my,
With the
well,
giant
that's,
boomerang.
that's for me too.
Yes.
Yeah, it's absolutely awful, but I love it.
It's
Yeah.
Finally,
this-
a man with spirit.
with my rating system, you guys, I have to say that I think there are worse films out there, But I think there's a point where a movie comes to a certain level that it's a 1 and that's all they deserve. There are things worse, but I can't give them any better just because there's worse.
They didn't earn
You
it
can
at all.
always make something worse.
I
And
fully agree.
I can't give it that too.
Yeah, I think it's really just writing on the fact that they put money at this movie and it made it physically onto film.
Yeah.
You get that one for just for
And
making a film. That
fact-
one
Good
is
job, you
The
made a
fact
movie.
that a lot of the promising things in this relied on a film, which relied on a book. So like they had so many chances that it's not even fair.
Yeah.
I will say, averaging the scores, we're around a 1.5. Actually, we are at a 1.5 average. And normally, I would ask AJ, "Hey, where does this land?" But I'm just going to go ahead and skip past that and say, "Hey, it's our lowest ranked movie yet."
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Ever.
Pretty sure.
AJ, if you just want to say your piece on the ranking of this movie, that'd be cool though.
I mean, David said it for you. I didn't even literally do the algorithm because I knew it was going to be the lowest.
Yeah,
word.
it's if anyone, I mean, no one can follow our ranking, but maybe we'll get that up live here
That
pretty
actually
soon.
would be a good idea.
Yeah, but yeah, that'll definitely fall at the bottom of our pack.
It's
easily.
the bottom. So Girl in the Spider's Web had an average of 3.8. This is a 1.5.
Easily the lowest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I still think Girl in the Spider's Web deserves higher if you just do a comparison with this
Yeah,
movie.
with
They're
2020
3.8
hindsight,
is
I
In
mean,
comparison.
yeah, as much as I dislike that movie, it's definitely worth more than half a point of what I scored this. So
It is.
Right.
It is at least competently made for whatever that means.
I think we said the average was 3.8, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fair.
That's not fair.
No, I mean if we rated this a 1.5, that's a solid almost 2.5 points higher.
It deserves at least a 5 in comparison to this, in my opinion. But
All right,
either
fair
way, both not great movies.
That's just
I
because this
agree.
movie's the absolute pits.
Yeah,
it's the
but-
bottom.
All right, so critics on Rotten Tomatoes, this movie had a 14%
Oh
last
my
time I
gosh.
checked,
Hey.
and a audience score of 40%. Surprisingly, a little bit higher than I would have.
Must have been
Probably-
a crowd of just
The
our
90s,
mom.
man.
It's probably just a bunch of parents bringing kids
Yeah.
there, and they're like, whatever, it kept my kid from crying.
Yeah, exactly.
and that's like great
Until
Dead
the end.
fans. They're all stoned.
Yeah. IMDb, it had a 5.2. And there is,
How?
Okay.
yeah, and there, not to my knowledge at least, there's no Metacritic score reported. So, and when I checked Rotten Tomatoes, only 7 critics had given it a score, which is obscenely low. So,
I will
whatever.
say, I think, what was it? The Mummy with Tom Cruise got like a 17% or something.
Yeah.
How stupid are critics when it comes to comparisons? Okay, 14
Yeah.
to 17. You're saying that this is literally on the exact same level as the
also
Mummy with Tom
you
Cruise?
have to backpedal back to 1990 for this movie.
No, I
It's
don't.
a different time.
I don't. No, I don't. Those are two completely different movies.
Yeah, trust him. He knows about his mummy scores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's very passionate.
You
You can't even sing.
move on.
All right, let's move on to box office. This movie cost at least it was hard to find a source for how much this movie cost, but 36 million is one report that I found. Any guesses as to how this movie did worldwide box office?
-5.
Terrible.
20.
I'm guessing
People
wow.
paid people to watch it.
I'm
They put money into marketing and no one saw it.
20.
AJ, you're at 20 million worldwide.
What-
AJ,
what was the budget?
David? 36 million.
I'm gonna say 15.
15. Noah?
I was gonna say about 20, but I will
Split.
hunker down
No,
a
go
little lower,
above.
go 17.
No.
17.
Yeah.
Irina?
You got to go above.
Money?
That way you cover the entire distance above, and I covered the lower.
Wait, Irina. How? What was that?
That's true.
Now, if it's above 20, AJ wins.
Hey, she's
Not-
saying
not-
her
it's-
guess,
My guess is money, but not as much money as other movies.
but still money.
But still some money.
All right, Reese.
Monopoly money.
I'll change.
Monopoly money.
Some money.
23.
There we go.
23. Okay, so above AJ and David, but not above Irina, who is some money.
Yeah.
So the movie did 38.5
You're welcome.
million
Hey.
worldwide.
I'm actually annoyed because I had two thoughts at first. My first was it probably made exactly what the movie did, and that was it.
Well, you got to consider the
And,
first Neverending Story made over 100 million worldwide.
So
Yeah.
all the money this made was literally on the name itself?
Yeah, I would say it's based off the name. Yeah, so
100%.
it did not well.
Those poor people.
Yeah, but it didn't. I wouldn't say that it wasn't a catastrophic bomb. It did ensure that this movie didn't get another theatrical release in the future.
It's no John Carter.
Yeah, though Neverending Story 3 did try to. WB almost picked it up for distribution in the U.S., but it ended up falling through, and it only released in Germany. So,
Well,
did this kill the
1990
franchise?
I was just saying, 1990 is also the year of Goodfellas, Home Alone, the first one, Dances with Wolves, Total Recall, Back to the Future
Dances
3.
with Wolves.
A lot of actual
See.
movies that are much better.
So, how long after the first one did this one come out?
85 was the
first one
first
was
one.
7.
84, or I thought it was 84.
It was
You're probably
84.
right.
Yeah, so seven years.
7 years? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd
6
say-
years if you're just counting Germany, which it came out in 1990. But
I think it's a combination of bad and timing.
yeah. Well, one thing that complicated things
Bad
was
timing.
the original actors were not able to return to this movie because of a lawsuit filed by Mikhail Inde from the first movie. How upset he was that how much they butchered the story and changed it.
Yeah.
So he just allowed the bookshop owner. He's like, yeah, I guess if there's anybody who's allowed to be back, it's that bookshop owner.
So that went on for a few years, even though they had originally planned to do a trilogy off of the Neverending Story. But then just the delay of that ensured that none of the original actors returned, and we're left with this complete recasting. Not exactly a lower budget. It was slightly lower. The budget is reported at oh, actually, it's a higher budget. Sorry, excuse me. This movie actually cost more than the first
What?
movie. Yeah,
Really?
yeah, 36 million.
What?
So did I say that already?
He did.
Yeah, you said
you
the
said
budget.
that.
I just didn't know it was more.
Yeah, the first one I think was around 25 million. So
How did they butcher this so bad?
I don't know.
Well, Irina, I'm curious
Well-
to see your take on comparison to the book, because I haven't got quite so far in the book.
Dude, okay. So I'm sorry. Like this of course this evil sorceress is part of the story, but she's not the main villain in this second part. The main villain ends up being actually Bastion himself, because he's making these wishes and changing Fantasia, and the Empress just goes missing in general. They don't know where she is. So he assumes basically the throne of ruling Fantasia. So there's this whole issue of how his wishes have certain ramifications, and him realizing that his greatest wish is actually to love and give people love, like to know how to love. And so it's just like there's so much more interesting concepts in the book than what was given, and I'm just so disappointed. But it's hard to fully explain the story without giving away too much if someone wanted to read it.
This
But,
movie makes me feel less intelligent.
yeah,
Like it's so hard to talk about it. I can't formulate my words like I normally do. Like I don't know if that's just me or
Yeah.
just
Well-
trying to talk about the Neverending Story.
Well, it
2.
might have been just the title, because clearly this movie is they very much are in a similar situation to you.
I told you that emptiness is contagious to the audience.
yeah,
Yeah.
But,
It is talking about itself essentially.
It'd
Yeah,
be funny if
Self-aware.
they kept calling them the subtitle for every
the next
next
chapter.
movie was called The Next Chapter.
I mean, technically,
does
they're
say
not
the
wrong.
next,
Next
chapter,
chapter.
and the next chapter, and the next chapter.
Yeah. So I'm over it.
So
I'm
yeah,
over it.
basically I think what killed this movie was a lackluster box office as always, which that just naturally kills any potential franchise, but also the fact that it was delayed for so long and the original actors or the original cast didn't get to return. I feel like
Yeah.
if you had all of the original characters in the sequel, this could have done honestly monumentally better.
Well, what
in my
about the
opinion.
screenwriting? Like,
I honestly, was this written by the same person? Karen Howard wrote this movie. I need to check the first one real quick.
I can't believe it's the same person.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Okay.
So Wolfgang Peterson, who is a perfectionist by nature, helped do the screenplay for the first film. He was also the director, along with Herman Weigel. Let's see who Karen Howard is. I should have done this research ahead
She's
of time.
a Karen.
I feel like when you watched this, you
Karen.
decided, no.
She needs to speak with the manager.
Yeah, completely different team, though. I think the person who had the most involvement in these movies, though, was actually the producer, Dieter Geisler, who I want to say originally was the one that formulated the plan for the trilogy and had the idea to hire on a completely different director. Don't quote me on that. But I do remember reading that he wanted a new director for the new one so that it was a fresh kind of perspective and it didn't seem worn out, which was obviously the wrong call there.
How did he see any of this and think like, oh yeah, looks like it's going swimmingly?
I want to sue these guys.
Yeah. So there you have it. This movie has honestly KO'd us.
Dishonorable death.
KO'd.
So, oh yeah.
With
for sure.
a 1, 2, 3 knockout punch of
We
first the bird, second the dragon,
Yeah.
and third baby rockbiter.
So
Yeah.
to finish this up, I want to at least say, like, I commend those who tried on this film. It probably wasn't your fault. It was the direction of this whole catastrophe.
It was a one-take movie.
So I'm sorry for you guys. Good job working on something that ultimately failed. But
Yet again,
So-
read the book.
yeah, read the book, please.
So
Please.
I would say that this, I don't think it didn't kill the franchise because there's a third movie, but it completely took out a pistol and kneecapped like both legs.
Just
like
took a sledgehammer and hit him in the legs, like, keep running that marathon, buddy.
yeah, and then it handed the baton to the third and said, "Good luck." But I don't know. It did kill the franchise, though.
Yeah,
It really did.
It did.
It did.
We can say that.
So yeah, we can say this was a dishonorable death for
Yeah, I would say so.
Neverending
Yeah.
Story II.
It
Dead
went
franchise.
on through to stubborn nature rather than actually being a viable candidate for another movie.
They
Yeah.
left the franchise in a coma, and then they're like, all right, and who wants to do the next movie?
Well, you can make a distinction, I guess, just, for peace of mind, because the third movie had zero to do with the original book, whereas this one,
Yeah.
Yeah, not even
in
based off the book. I
theory,
read.
did.
Yeah.
All right. So that concludes our Neverending Story franchise discussions. We are not going to be talking about the third one.
Hallelujah.
Just because it had a very, very, very limited U.S. release, and it did have a release in Germany, but I wouldn't say it was enough to give it much talk on our show, and we just don't want to talk about that.
We don't.
I'm ready for something to just wash this out of my memory.
I need some mouthwash, yeah.
So, David, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I just, to cue us out of this one, I'm just going to say we are on all...
To cue us out of this one?
Tequila out of this.
To
Hey, yeah, let's get
how about just to take us
Long
out?
Island
Yeah,
iced
to-
teas.
Cuba is
Long
my
Island.
lady.
Yeah, to get out of this, I'm just going to say that we are on all different podcasting sites. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Podbean. You can find us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts.
You can
and,
find
Stitcher?
me at my house.
and Stitcher, yes. And if you're interested in following us on Instagram, we are pushing all of our shenanigans on
And
there.
Facebook, yo.
And Facebook. We're all the way out there. So, find us. Feel free to message us. Feel free to let us know your opinion. Yeah, so. that's
Also
all I
working
wanted
on
to say.
a playlist for some soundtrack pieces from the movies
Oh,
we
that's
covered.
right.
I already
Yeah, man.
started kind of listening.
How
to it.
can listeners find that?
So far on Spotify, working on Tidal probably, and there's a YouTube playlist as well for the free access, but some of it differs from the main one. But yeah.
All right, so we'll probably get back to you all on that next episode. We'll give you a way you can find that.
More
but
details.
AJ's selected tracks from each of our episodes from the scores of the movies that we've covered and picked the most significant tracks and put them in a playlist.
Did
So if you
anything
wanna-
from Neverending Story 2 make it?
No. I mean, if you consider the main title, which they reused from the first, then yes.
Oh, well, no, I don't.
All right, next week we will be covering Ghost in the Shell.
Ooh.
Not the anime, the
Live
live
action.
action remake.
Yeah,
Yes.
so sorry, guys.
We will probably talk about. We'll
Why are you
have a good
saying
amount of
sorry?
discussion about the original anime, though. I
Bit
know
of
I'll
both.
I'll watch it. I know AJ's watched
I've already
it.
Yeah.
watched part of it.
So
I've seen it
As
before,
have
but
I.
I'll watch
yeah,
it again.
there'll be a good amount of discussion of the original too. But this is mostly going to focus on the live action remake. So yeah, Ghost in the Shell next week. That's going to kick off a little bit of a cyberpunk series. So stay tuned for
I'm
that.
excited.
All right, guys, take it easy. Good. Bye.
Riddance.
Bye.
I love kids.
Look, I'm an engineer. What I see is what I see when I see it.